He was just a pizza delivery boy, 19, tired, and carrying someone else's dinner. But in less than 5 minutes, he uncovered a $150 million disaster that the most brilliant minds at Orion Tech had missed. His reward? Not praise, not gratitude, but a public humiliation laced with racism. From the CEO himself. The cameras caught every word. What happened next would not only destroy the most powerful man in the company, it would change the boy's life forever. Noah Carter wasn't a tech prodigy, a Wall Street genius, or the son of a billionaire. He was a 19-year-old pizza delivery boy, the kind who spent more time dodging traffic than making plans for the future. His mother, Laura, worked nights as a cleaner at Orion Tech, a towering glass building full of people who never knew her name. Most nights, Noah's life was predictable. Deliver, collect tips, and dream of the day he could afford college. But on one rainy Tuesday, a wrong turn in the corporate maze would place him in the heart of Orion Tech's operations center. He didn't belong there, not by their standards. Yet within minutes, he'd see something no one else had noticed. Something that could save the company $150 million, or ruin it entirely. The moment Noah stepped into Orion Tech's glass-walled operations center, he felt out of place. Rows of glowing monitors reflected the faces of suited analysts, each too focused on their work to notice him, until they did. Eyes darted toward his pizza bag, then lingered on his skin, his hoodie, the worn sneakers that had seen too many shifts. It was the kind of look that told him, without a word, that he didn't belong here. He tried to leave quickly, but on the main display wall, a live data feed caught his eye. Lines of code flickered in a pattern that shouldn't exist. Noah had been teaching himself programming at night for months, tinkering with open-source projects on an old laptop. What he saw wasn't random. It was an error buried so deep it could cripple Orion Tech's flagship algorithm. Curiosity pulled him closer. While waiting for a signature on the delivery slip, he opened his phone, replicated the sequence, and wrote a fix in less than 2 minutes. To him, it was just instinct. But to Orion Tech, it was the difference between stability and a $150 million catastrophe. That's when Jonathan Kane, the CEO himself, walked in. Tall, immaculately dressed, and radiating the kind of authority that silences a room. Kane scanned Noah from head to toe. Instead of asking how he'd found the flaw, his lips curled into a smirk. "Must be nice," he said loud enough for the room to hear. "When the janitor's kid thinks he's smarter than my engineers." Laughter rippled across the floor. Noah froze, heat rising in his chest. He knew his mother had spent 15 years cleaning these halls, invisible to the people now mocking her son. But what Kane didn't know was that someone had been recording. Every word, every smirk, every insult. Within hours, the clip spread online, sparking outrage. People wanted answers. Why would a CEO publicly humiliate the young man who just saved his company? But Kane doubled down, calling it a misunderstanding, while quietly ordering security to blacklist Noah from the building. That was the moment the line was drawn. Noah could have walked away, gone back to delivering pizzas and tried to forget. But the more he thought about the smug grin on Kane's face, the more he realized this wasn't just about him. It was about every person who had been dismissed, disrespected, and pushed aside because of where they came from or the color of their skin. Noah called his mother. Then he called Daniel Ross, an investigative journalist, and Dr. Mitchell, a tech ethics professor who had been warning about Orion Tech's shady practices for years. Together, they began pulling at threads, hidden contracts, falsified reports, and whispers of industrial espionage. Each new discovery painted a darker picture. Kane's empire wasn't just built on innovation. It was built on exploitation, deception, and discrimination. And with every piece of evidence they uncovered, Noah knew they were getting closer to the truth. But the closer they got, the more dangerous it became. Kane wasn't just a CEO, he was a man with powerful friends and a lot to lose. And Noah was about to challenge him in the one place he thought he was untouchable. The boardroom. The boardroom at Orion Tech was a fortress of power. Polished oak table, walls lined with framed patents, and 12 board members who controlled billions. At the head sat Jonathan Kane, calm on the surface but with eyes that flickered with hostility the moment Noah walked in. Noah wasn't invited, but the evidence was. Daniel Ross had leaked enough to force the board's emergency meeting. Kane still thought he could spin the narrative, paint Noah as an opportunist, a liar, a kid who got lucky. But when the lights dimmed and the first video played, the room went silent. Kane's voice, dripping with arrogance. "When the janitor's kid thinks he's smarter than my engineers." Laughter echoed from the speakers. Then came the documents, contracts showing Kane had stolen code from smaller startups, falsified safety reports, and sold government data to competitors. Each slide was another nail in his empire. Noah's hands trembled under the table, but he forced himself to look Kane in the eye. He remembered every insult, every dismissive glance. Every time his mother had come home late, exhausted, smelling of bleach, and still smiling through her pain. Kane's composure cracked. "This is slander," he barked, his voice sharp enough to cut the air. But before he could continue, the door burst open. Two federal agents stepped inside, their badges glinting under the recessed lights. "Jonathan Kane," one agent announced. "You're under arrest for fraud, industrial espionage, and workplace discrimination." Gasps erupted. Kane's chair scraped back violently, but there was nowhere to run. The man who had once towered over the company now stood frozen, his empire collapsing in real time. And Noah? He didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He just sat there, heart pounding, as the man who had tried to humiliate him was led away in handcuffs. Because this wasn't the end. This was just the moment the world started paying attention. Kane's arrest made headlines around the world. Orion Tech stock dipped, but within weeks, the board began rebuilding its image, this time with a different kind of leader. They offered Noah the position of interim CEO. At just 20 years old, he became the youngest in the company's history. But for Noah, it was never about the title. His first act wasn't to celebrate, but to rewrite the company's hiring policies, implement diversity programs, and create a whistleblower protection fund. He made sure no one, no cleaner, no intern, no junior engineer, would ever be silenced or humiliated the way he and his mother had been. Laura Carter still cleaned buildings, but now she did it on her own terms, running a successful cleaning business and employing dozens of workers at fair wages. She walked into Orion Tech 1 year later, not with a mop and bucket, but as a guest of honor at a company-wide diversity summit. Noah's story became a symbol, a reminder that brilliance doesn't come with a dress code, and respect shouldn't depend on the name on your badge or the color of your skin. But here's the truth. For every Noah who's given a chance to fight back, there are thousands who aren't. Thousands whose stories never make headlines, whose dignity is chipped away in quiet moments that no one records. So the question isn't whether Noah won. He did. The question is, how many more people have to go through this before we decide that dignity, equality, and respect aren't privileges, they're rights? Because if one young man could take down a giant with nothing but courage and truth, what could we all do, together? What do you think about Noah's fight against Orion Tech and the way he turned injustice into change? If you believe stories like this need to be told, hit that like button and share this video so more people can hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful true stories that the world needs to see.